Now, let's go abroad. Queen Elizabeth's husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, has died. He was 99 years old. The British royal family announcing the news on its Twitter page moments ago. Buckingham Palace says the prince died peacefully at Windsor Castle this morning. Last month, he was discharged from a London hospital after a treatment for an infection and a heart procedure. The royal family says it will make further announcements soon. Let's go to London now, to our correspondent Olly Barratt. Olly, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday View here on ENCA. Sad news indeed coming out of Buckingham Palace. How has the country there responded or reacted?
I think there's great sympathy now, which is pouring out from the United Kingdom. Prince Philip was a controversial figure at times, but he was also a mainstay of British public life for decade after decade after decade, ever present alongside the Queen at thousands of public engagements over the years. He had stepped back a bit from public life since 2017, but passing away just months before his 100th birthday. And so, as I say, sympathy for Prince Philip himself, the Duke of Edinburgh, on his passing, but also a great deal of sympathy for the Queen, who is held really in deep, deep affection by the large majority of the British people. If you look at the polling numbers that we continue to see reflecting her popularity, and so many people are feeling a great amount of sympathy with the Queen, who has lost her husband and the man who has been by her side for over 70 years now, a really multi-decade marriage that the two had. She often described him as an incredibly important support for her. So those public outpourings are coming as well from across the political spectrum. We've heard from Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister. He talks about receiving the news with great sadness. He says Prince Philip earned the affection of generations here in the United Kingdom, but also across the Commonwealth, he said, and around the world.
Yes, and I mean, he was really not much of a public figure. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the Queen, of course, being the Queen, was always up front, and then you had the princes and others. He sort of like stayed behind. He was like, you know, that man was always there, but not seen a lot.
Yeah, he very much saw his role as supporting the Queen, and that was why, as you say, when they were at those many thousands of public engagements together, he was often one step behind her. He wasn't always completely removed from the limelight, though. There were many comments he made to people up and down the years. Some of them were reported as being funny, insightful and wise. Others were reported as being slightly insensitive, but he did retain a great level of popularity among the British people nonetheless, despite that controversy. And he also did carry out many public engagements on his own, not with the Queen. So a life dedicated to public service is what many of the tributes that are coming in are reflecting on when it comes to Prince Philip. He set up in this country the Duke of Edinburgh award scheme, which has seen thousands and thousands of young people go through it over the years. And so many of the tributes, including that has come from the Prime Minister, has paid tribute to his role and the influence he had on generations of young people. Boris Johnson saying he inspired the lives of countless young people. But you reflect on that idea of him being secondary sometimes to the Queen in terms of public engagements and perception as well. He knew that was his role. He was certainly very committed to it, and not an easy role for him to carry out over those many decades either.
Yeah, one would imagine it was not that easy. But within the royal family himself, what kind of tributes are coming out about the kind of man he was within Buckingham Palace?
Well, just a short statement from Buckingham Palace at the moment, talking about the deep sorrow with which the Queen has announced the death of Prince Philip, described as her beloved husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. In terms of what happens next, we expect to hear some details today and over the coming days about the funeral, for example, the period of mourning that is now underway. All of that is happening, of course, under pandemic restrictions. Many of England's lockdown restrictions are due to ease on Monday, but not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. We know that Prince Philip wanted to have a royal ceremony for his funeral rather than a full state affair. But even that will now have to be pared down, I think, because of the rules surrounding the amount of people that can gather in one place at the moment because of COVID-19 restrictions. It'll be also, of course, very interesting to see how and when and whether Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, his wife, travel over from the United States for the funeral, whenever it might be. So there are still lots that we don't know about what the coming days are going to look like.
Yes, and the royal family, of course, in that statement you were referring to, saying they'll make further announcements soon. I guess we're going to have to wait and get those details. And thank you very much, Olly Barratt, our correspondent in London, here on the Midday View.